The NHL Trade Deadline is over. We have NFL trade news, and I've traded Chris for Jason. This is another edition of Sports QuaranTV. Welcome back. Another edition of Sports QuaranTV. I'm Gerry Green. This is Jason King. Chris Dobson has the week off. Jason's along, and I think the viewers asked me, Jay, when we were coming back, so sooner than later. So let's get on with it, Jay, regarding the NHL. Big news this week in regards to the teams that are jockeying for position to strengthen their teams as they go 20 games left in the NHL. I always like to look, or it's always common practice, you like to know who the winners and the losers are. I thought going in, Florida had a strong team, but, Jason, they get the biggest fish in Claude Giroux. I think it's a great pickup.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. They were already the best team in the league as far as I'm concerned, and most people are concerned. I feel like if you're talking trade deadline, it kind of starts with the Canadiens, which is weird because I know they're not the contender this year. But if you're talking winners and losers, a lot of Habs fans, whether we're delusional or not, look at the Canadiens as winners. They certainly came away with a lot of pieces.
They came away with a lot of pieces to build on, Jason, and it appears in the city of Montreal that the fans are all right with what direction the Canadiens are going in, and they're all right with the guys who are leading it, including the Martin St. Louis behind the bench. They seem to like the fact, they were in the Stanley Cup final last year. Let's not get carried away that they've been starving there in Montreal, and fortunate to do so last year as well. So they really seem to have the right stuff in place. And a trade that started with Lehkonen going to Colorado and Justin Barron coming back, that's been well documented and well spoken about and draft picks as well, about how valuable Justin Barron is, who was a Maritime boy, Nova Scotia boy, and played for the Halifax Mooseheads, and how important piece that was to get back. Lehkonen was going to be a free agent next year, so a smart move on Montreal's behalf. There's a lot of teams that did stuff like that. I think Drew was one of those. And also Montreal traded away Ben Sherratt and got good return on him. Not only did they get a body, they got more draft picks. So they've got lots of stuff on the shelves.
And talking about Florida, a question I have for you is, a lot of people, when it comes to Florida, it's almost like it doesn't matter what their record is. People are just going to continue to say, you got to show me in the playoffs that you can do it. Otherwise, I'm not going to believe in you. Is that your way of thinking, or is it? To me, it's kind of hard to watch them play and not think that they are a true cup contender. I don't care about any previous playoffs and how poorly they may have played. Like, this team is a juggernaut.
Yeah, it's tough in the East, and they have a career year going out of Jonathan Huberdeau, and Barkov's doing it too. They got the goaltending. I remember that series they had last year with Tampa Bay in the first round. It was the most intense hockey I'd ever seen, about speed, skill, tenacity, hitting, hating each other, all that going on. And I think they might have learned a lot from that, Jason. And Tampa Bay is still going to be there. And as I've always said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. But you've got a tough road there. You've got Florida, Tampa Bay, Toronto, and Boston. Now, Boston's coming up from behind. They've added defenseman Lundholm that they picked up and signed and thought that was an important part of the trade period for Boston. They're going to get Bergeron back. That's a tough place to be, and still Florida sits on top, but Tampa Bay, Toronto, and Boston can interchange themselves, and Florida could find themselves possibly facing off against Tampa Bay again in the first round. So let's talk about Toronto a little bit, Jason. Sure. Didn't do anything about the goaltending, added Giordano on the blue line, a veteran performer, certainly past his prime, but a great hockey player, a great leader. Is that enough for Toronto to move on, knowing that, Campbell's still kind of injured and where the goaltending might stand?
The goaltending, that's really what it's going to come down to, right? Like, I know Marner has had his playoff troubles, but I go kind of the same way what I just said about Florida, where, talent you have to assume eventually is going to win out, and they're a talented team. Do I believe that they're, a top 2, 3 team in the East? Probably not. I think Carolina,
Yeah.
Florida, Tampa Bay, they're all three of those are above them. But, Marner and Matthews, if they go on a streak, they can be as good as anybody. So do I believe that the Leafs did enough? Probably not, because I think the goaltending is still, that's a problem. But when you have the top end talent that they have, you still have a chance. You just, I guess you don't want to see Boston if you're Toronto, that's for sure.
Okay, so we've kind of put our finger on Colorado as being a team to watch in the West. And by the record and according to what they're doing out there and who they've added, including another defenseman in Josh Manson that they got from Anaheim, Calgary and Edmonton are the ones you want to talk about. Edmonton does what they need to do with getting Evander Kane, okay? They got Hyman during the offseason. But they didn't do anything about their goaltending. Goaltending's playing pretty good right about now. Smith played the other night, played all right. Cotton, what's the other goalie's name? Cotton.
Yeah, I can pronounce them just as well as you.
Yeah, just as well as I could. The two goaltenders aren't good enough. They aren't. And here Calgary has added to Foley, and they've added Jean Cock that they got from Seattle. And they have good goaltending. They got Markstrom in nets, and they got a solid defense. I think Calgary strides ahead of Edmonton. Edmonton might make the playoffs, but I think Calgary's the second seed in the West.
Yeah, I think there's a fun debate out there who the fifth best team in hockey is, because I think you got a pretty clear top four with those three in the East we were talking about in Colorado. And I think you can make a pretty good case for Calgary being the fifth best team. They have pretty much everything you need. They've made the trades to Foley. Love it. Love that their big guys are having career years. Like, sometimes that's what you need, is to have everybody have their career at the same time. And that's what it takes to win the Stanley Cup, right? And the Flames look like the other team in the West that I like, especially after the trade deadline, is, let's talk a little bit about Minnesota.
Well, Minnesota gets Fleury. Now, I didn't know Cam Talbot was still there. And Talbot, I think, got a shutout the other night, perhaps.
First game after the trade.
First game after the trade.
Yep.
Seems interesting. They have a very interesting lineup. My surprise team in the West, Jay, would be the LA Kings. Sure. LA Kings have quietly, they've been my surprise of the year, sitting second in the conference. And Philip Danault. Philip Danault. I've got Danault in my mind. We're going to talk about the Q in a minute. Got 19 goals this year in LA. And so that would really eat Dobson and Montreal fans maybe a little bit, but the fact he is able to score, he was just not a one-dimensional guy. And the only other team, Jay, before we move on, that really disappointed me this season, the New York Islanders, my goodness, they got a brand new facility, brand new rink. They were in the semifinals last year before falling in 7 to Tampa Bay, and will not even be close to sniffing at the playoffs with pretty much the same talent. Let's move on, Jay. Especially, we'll stay on the ice, and we'll talk about the Q and what the St. John Sea Dogs have done. The St. John Sea Dogs have won 10 straight games and have really seemed to have found their mojo. They're 5th overall now. They're in behind Charlottetown. Now, Charlottetown still sits 1st overall, but just barely. But they stumbled a little bit in the last two, because last week, a couple weeks ago, you remember on this show, we talked about that Bathurst and Charlottetown and St. John were going to play each other that coming weekend. Well, Charlottetown got the worst of all that. Maybe some overtime losses and got some points, but still got the worst of it. Bathurst has a 6-game win streak going. Charlottetown's still 1st overall, but being followed very closely by Sherbrooke and Quebec, who've won 8 of their last 10. The big games this week, St. John is going to be in Charlottetown. That'll be tonight. And then Bathurst plays Halifax a couple of times this weekend. We'll keep our eyes on those. Unfortunately, the Moncton Wildcats and the Halifax Mooseheads and the Cape Breton Eagles have to play the other 3 teams in the division. Moncton's now lost 7 in a row, Jason, as we near the mark where there's going to be just 20 games left in the schedule. The schedule does end on May 1st. But interesting developments out of St. John, who are, of course, hosting the Memorial Cup this season. Maybe they have got to the point where they've gelled. They've named a new captain in the newly acquired Sevigny that they brought in from Victoriaville, along with Hurtubise, the goaltender. And they've seemed to think he's supplying leadership along with Philippe Daou. Philippe Daou, former Moncton Wildcat, has come and been a great success, has 12 goals under his belt since arriving, and he picked up an A on his jersey. So maybe they've solidified the room. Maybe that was something that St. John needed. 10 wins in a row, Jay, you got to say that's something.
Yeah, it's and maybe this is the theme of what I'm talking about here is, eventually talent wins out. And when that many good players get put together, it's going to take a while to gel, no doubt. And some of the guys that have been there for a while, maybe there's been some bad habits, there's some bad memories from years past, and it takes a while for all that, to forget about the bad and to kind of build together towards the good. But if that's going to happen, now seems like a good time for that to happen, and it certainly looks like it's happening.
Yeah, it is. And when you get 20 games left to schedule, they can catch Charlottetown if they keep, winning at this pace.
If they win every game, sure.
Well, I mean, and I don't know how. Look at in sports how much confidence is a factor, and they seem to have found it.
Yes.
And it's going to be fun to watch down the stretch. It's going to be fun to watch this Maritime Division and those three teams, Ackley, Bathurst, Charlottetown, and St. John, battle and jockey for positions as we go towards May 1st and the end of the regular season. Let's talk about the NFL, Jay, a little bit. Both of us love the NFL and love football. A stunning trade happened today. I never saw it coming in regards to Tyreek Hill of the Kansas City Chiefs. Your Kansas City Chiefs. He's now a Dolphin. Can you explain it to me?
I mean, I can explain the reasons. Do I agree with the reasons is a different question. It kind of goes to the other trade that we'll talk about right after this, is the Davante Adams trade when he went to the Raiders, and they made him the highest paid receiver in league history. Well, Tyreek Hill, he's got a new contract. He's due for a new deal, and he sees that. What's he going to think? Is I want more than that. Chiefs are paying $500 million to their quarterback, so they only have so much money to go around. They decide now's the time. Tyreek Hill's going to have to go.
Well, did they make an offer to Hill?
They did, but it wasn't enough. And if you're not willing to make him the highest paid, and he wants to be the highest paid, then where are you going to go? You've got an impasse.
He's an interesting receiver, Jay. We talk about Davante Adams going to the Raiders, which shocked me again, leaving Green Bay.
Probably shocked Aaron Rodgers.
Well, Aaron Rodgers too. And so now they're in the market for a number one wide receiver. But two different receivers. See, I find that Hill does it with his feet, where Davante Adams would do it with his smarts and his hands and his ability to be open. I'm not saying Hill can't get open, but Hill is the kind of guy who catches the ball and then makes stuff happen. Yep. Where I think Davante Adams or any of those great, lanky, long, wide receivers race to the ball and make these spectacular catches. Do you agree?
I agree. And, you could argue that Tyreek Hill, if the speed, lessens even a little bit, then he's not nearly the player he is right now. He's 28. That you would think that it's going to start to deteriorate at least a little bit, and maybe that little bit is the difference that the Chiefs saw and said, you know what, we're not interested. Now the question when it comes to those two wide receivers is, did the quarterbacks make them? And we'll find out, because when you go from Rodgers to Derek Carr and from Mahomes to Tua, that's a downgrade. Now,
Tua's got to get And Miami's been busy, Jay. They've been looking at linemen too, and catching some in the free agency there too. But Tua is still, I'm not sold on him. Can he get the ball to Hill and make Hill the difference maker? That's the big question.
That is the big question, and everybody in Miami is looking at that. And it's not even just Tyreek. They have Jalen Waddle, who set a rookie record for receptions last year. So they have all the pieces. They've given Tua everything. And if he doesn't show it this year, then I mean, was that trade even worth it? If you don't have a quarterback, what's the point of having the receiver?
Now, this wasn't I guess it was a trade, but still shocks me. Deshaun Watson went to the Browns. I didn't know the Browns were in the market. Wow. I thought, Baker Mayfield was their guy. He fought tooth and nail all season long to try to get the Browns into the postseason, and I think might have hurt himself doing so. And now, Jay, he's on the outside looking in. And Deshaun Watson comes with baggage, and I still don't know if the Browns can deal with that PR problem.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. Like, I don't really know how to talk about a Deshaun Watson trade. Like, you can't really just talk about it in a football sense. Like, sure, he's a top 5 quarterback if all he is a quarterback, but there's so much more terrible things that come with him that, to me, it's not worth it. But I mean, I don't even feel right having a conversation about Deshaun Watson because
I understand.
Don't know how to do it.
So here are the Browns, and I think Brown fans loved and liked the effort that Baker Mayfield put in. Sure, there's always a little bit of some warts there, some bad plays that he might have made along the way, but it all came from his heart. He was trying his best to make his team better. Now, I'm reading that he's injured, and whether or not he even plays this year is a question mark. But if he does play, Jay, he's still on the Browns roster. Is a team like maybe Seattle inquire about him? I'm not sure if he's even playing this year or not, but that'd be a nice landing spot for him, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, there's really only 2 teams left that could conceivably be looking for a quarterback, and it's Seattle and Carolina. You could say Pittsburgh, but I think they're going to draft one, and Seattle might even draft one. Like, there's no real jobs left. So Baker,
I thought Trubisky was in Pittsburgh, wasn't he?
Well, yeah. So but I'm saying you get what I'm saying.
Well, you can take that job from him, yeah.
You can still use a quarterback. So I mean, I think Baker will be healthy, but he's going to have to be a backup quarterback, and it's not going to be in Cleveland. I don't know where he's going, but
there's no way he can be a backup in Cleveland. You can't put him on the bench now. But something's got to be done.
So yes, there is, and one more thing real quick on NFL, just again for Dobson. He's got another new quarterback. I don't know if this is 8, 9, 10 years in a row that they've had a different quarterback to week 1 in Indy, but it's Matt Ryan this year. He's certainly not the MVP he was a few years ago. He's stable. You get him for a couple years, and then you're right back on this carousel looking for a quarterback. So I don't really get it.
I like it. He's a veteran. Kind of like when what's his name? Rivers came in, sort of same thing. And Matt's health overall throughout his career has not been bad. And he's not a mobility type of guy. He's back in the pocket, and I think Indianapolis has the structure up front to protect him. And he's smart, and he's tall, and he's strong, and he does a great Tide commercial that I've seen him do with.
Called Steve Austin. Yep.
He gives the personal side of him and also stuff like that. But I was shocked. I was surprised that he was even thinking of moving and that he landed in Indianapolis. I think that'll be an interesting fit, and I hope it works out. I guess this Marcus Mariota is going to take his spot in Atlanta, and Atlanta's in a full-blown rebuild is what seems to be. But still, we don't know what's going to happen with Garoppolo, and we don't know what's going to happen with Mayfield. Garoppolo going to even go back to San Francisco? Could Mayfield end up in San Francisco? Lots of things still to be decided in the NFL. Baseball season's underway, Jay, and we love to talk baseball. We love to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm a little bit worried about the so-called experts pinning a medal on the chest of the Blue Jays already that they could win the American League East. Yes, they could, but please don't say it.
So, winning the offseason wins you nothing. So, the fact that people like their moves, I like their moves, that's great. But until the games count and we see how everything gels together and whether, Vladdy and Bo was last year the first of many, Hall of Fame caliber seasons for both of them, or were those outlier, they're never going to be that good again years, right? So, if Vladdy's not putting up MVP numbers every year, then they're not quite the contenders that we think they are. But hopefully for all of our sake, Vladdy is doing that. And then, we're off to the races.
Well, I'm glad they left him at first. I thought his play there improved as the season went along and started to be a real good addition to the defense. Now, so the big acquisition of late was Matt Chapman.
Defense.
Yes. Right, and plays one of the best third bases supposedly in the league. But he strikes out a lot, Jay. Regarding to offense, he strikes out a lot. And I was reading an interesting article this week. Jose Bautista holds the record for Blue Jays in the history of the Toronto Blue Jays of striking out 170 times in a season. You remember that year he did it? And I'm not sure which year it was, but we always said, Bautista, he struck out again And so Chapman struck out 202 times last year. Is that going to be one of those kind of, okay, he plays great defense, but jumpers, I wish he'd hit the ball?
Well, listen, we only have about 3 minutes until the wrap, so I'm going to try not to go a full 3 just talking about Chapman. But
I know.
I'm okay with the strikeouts. Do I want 200 strikeouts? Obviously not. But
no.
The man is a 3-time platinum glove third baseman. Okay, so first of all, is that worth a few extra strikeouts? I think so. He's a 30 home run guy. That counts for something too.
Sure.
Last year, he was just coming off shoulder surgery. So now, another year free of that shoulder surgery. Maybe he's feeling a little better. Maybe his timing's down a little more now that he's had I know there was a lockout, but let's say he's had a full off season to, get ready, get healthy. Maybe he's going to look a little different. It's
a solid looking lineup defensively.
Yep.
And let's talk about the rotation then.
Sure.
I was reading the other day that Ryu, who was the number one, I think opening day starter last year for the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Has he slid all the way down to 4 or 5?
Yeah. And I don't think that is a negative on him so much as it's a positive on what the Jays have done. It's not that Ryu's a bad pitcher, because he's not. It's that Kevin Gausman is a really good pitcher. It's that Jose Barrios is a really good pitcher. Alex Manoah is a really good pitcher.
I'm looking forward to him for another year.
So I don't think it's that he's bad. It's that they just have and go ahead and tell me who the 5th pitcher for the Blue Jays is this year after their last trade that they just made with Seattle. They added a new starter. Who's that?
Oh, you say Kikuchi? Kikuchi.
You say Kikuchi. Now
I can say it. I try to say it. Yes.
He's the next person everybody's thinking.
Huh.
Pete Walker's going to put the magic dust on and turn him into the next Robbie Ray. That's probably a little too high of an expectation, but as a 5th starter, you can't go wrong there.
Jay, let's quickly move on to March Madness because it's a big part. You love basketball. I love basketball too. The Blue Jays or the Raptors have made me really enjoy basketball more. And no more exciting time than March Madness. It looks like Gonzaga and Arizona have made their way through. But the big surprise for me is the St. Pete's Peacocks. And you got to cheer for a 15th seed that's still in the Sweet 16, don't you think?
That's the beauty of March Madness is you're getting teams and players that you hadn't heard of in your life. Did I ever know about St. Pete's? No. I'm a big
It's in New Jersey, by the way.
We didn't know that.
No, I know. Everybody didn't know that.
Them in 3 weeks. I won't even remember them. But for right now, great story. Can't get enough of them.
They got to play Purdue this week. Duke is still in it as Coach K is still trying to win another championship. They're up against Texas Tech. The defending champs, Baylor, they're out. UNC is the team to watch there. And so it's still exciting to watch the March Madness. I enjoy it tremendously. A lot of things people love to enjoy is the wrap. And so let's get to the wrap, Jason. And news, we were talking about the NFL. There's other news about the NFL in regards to broadcasting. Enlighten us.
Yeah, I hope you've got your Amazon Prime account ready to go, Jerry, and know how to use it. Because if you want to watch Thursday Night Football, that's where it's going to be. They just announced Al Michaels leaving NBC, going to be their play-by-play man on Amazon Prime Thursday nights. Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit. So if you need me, give me a call. I'll tell you how to set that up, and we'll watch Thursday Night Football together on Amazon Prime. AUS men's and women's hockey. Tell me about that.
Oh, goodness. The men's, it's down to a 1-game championship game. And that's what they decided because of the way the COVID affected their schedule this year. UMB is going to host St. FX on Friday night at the Aiken Center. Both teams are going to the Nationals, which get underway on March 31st to April 3rd. And they'll be hosted by the Acada Axemen. And that'll be in Wolfville. Both teams will go to the Nationals. It'll be an 8-team event. But Friday night at the Aiken Center, it's the championship of the AUS as the Reds host the X-Men. Also, the UMB women's team. We have to salute them this week as in their 4th year of existence, they won the AUS championship for women by sweeping St. FX in the final in 2 straight games. Congratulations to head coach Sarah Hillworth, who guided the team to their first championship. They'll go to UPEI. The Panthers and the Reds will represent the AUS at the championships. They get underway this week. 8 teams will be there as well. The Blue Jays are using new technology, Jay. Can you enlighten us on that?
Yeah, I was watching spring training game a couple days ago. And Danny Jansen, their catcher, wearable wrist technology he had. So he was punching in the pitch that he wanted and the location. And the pitcher has a little speaker in the brim of his cap that he can hear those calls on. So the point of this, the Houston Astros kind of ruined it for everybody. Try to hide pitch selection so that they can't steal signs.
Yeah.
And, Danny Jansen will punch in what he wants, and the pitcher's going to hear fastball low and inside. I don't know how everybody's going to take to it, but, a good technology, nothing wrong with that. Add to the game.
They're experimenting with it, right?
I don't know if it's going to make regular season. Might be just spring training. NHL playoffs. Tell me about that.
The NHL playoffs, they get underway this week. It's one of the junior teams that said, okay, we're going to play to the date we said we were going to play till, and some teams played 38 games, some played 35. They went on win percentage. The Summerside Western Capitals were the number one team all season long, Jay. They just lost 4 games all season long, and they're going to take on Edmonton in the first round because you got 4 teams from the north and 4 teams from the south, which is primarily Nova Scotia, PEI, and New Brunswick. But here you have Summerside playing Edmonton. They're 575 kilometers apart, Jason. That's 6 hours. Meanwhile, Campbellton plays Fredericton in the other semifinal in the division. They're 4 hours apart. Meanwhile, you got Yarmouth Plain Valley. What are they, a half hour apart? And Truro and Amherst are an hour apart. So I'm just saying I'll use geography in there a little bit on that one. Those are going to be best of 7s. They'll get to semifinals and finals. The news today was the Fred Page Cup that was going to be hosted in Summerside has been canceled, but they've added now 10 teams to the Centennial Cup National Junior A Championships. LeBron has some new goals or reached some new heights. Let us know about that, Jay.
The other day for second all-time in points scored, and if he keeps up his current pace, and there's no reason not to think he will, going to pass Kareem middle of next year for most points of all time. World Women's Curling. Hear about it.
Yes, Carrie Anderson and her team are still holding the fort and playing against some tough competition out there in BC. Strange world this week about curling. All teams are kind of breaking up a little bit in the world of curling in the country of Canada. Well, that'll do it for another episode. Jason, thank you. I'm Gerry Green saying thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.